Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We are thrilled to help you prepare for your next technical exam. Hopefully that is with Klaviyo, but the things that we'll share with you today is something that you'll be able to use in any technical assessment. So I'm very excited to help you with that, as well as we will have a Q&A portion at the end of our presentation. So if you have any questions, please jot them down and we will discuss at the very end. All right, well, let's get into it. So first off, hi everyone. My name is Alexandria Nunez-Bibby. I am a campus recruiter here at Klaviyo. I've been here for about 2 years and I have seen some incredible things, and I'm excited to share some of those things with you tonight. But first, I just want to go over kind of what the content of this presentation will be about. So here is the agenda. So welcome, we've already ticked that off. So moving right along, we'll be talking about who we are, our company values, the people. We'll also hear from one of my colleagues about what it's like working on the engineering team. We'll also learn a little bit more about our internship program from one of our former interns, and kind of the meat and potatoes of the presentation will really be about the technical piece and how we can help you be successful and be confident there. And then we'll chat about kind of all the departments that we're hiring in, and then we'll have some space for questions and some answers for you. Okay, so I know many of you haven't heard of us, but you will very soon. This company is really like being on a rocket ship, and we have no plans of slowing down, which is why we want all of you on board sooner rather than later. So kind of first things first, and that is learning how to pronounce Klaviyo. So I know you're probably looking at it and there's a K, there's a V, there's a Y, there's an O, and you're like, wait, what word is this? Well, here we have the kind of phonetics around how to say it, and it is Klaviyo. So the phonetics definitely help. They are a lifesaver. Otherwise, I didn't know how to pronounce it. So you are not alone if you were like, what company is this? How do you even say it? So yes, we are Klaviyo. And so more about kind of what we do. So our vision is to empower creators to own their destiny. So giving them the opportunity to own and take charge of their marketing through email and SMS. And I'll be saying SMS a lot, and SMS just means texting. So we were founded in 2012, and we've really taken off over the last kind of few years, and 50% of our employee base has really been hired in 2021 over the pandemic, and we're actually looking to double in size in 2022, which is very exciting. And so to give you some perspective, I started in 2019, and there were probably around 250 people here. And now, we're already hitting way past 1,000. So it's really exciting to see that rocket ship that I was referring to see it really taking off. So today we support nearly 100K paying customers in over 100 different companies. So those numbers are only increasing. And so in 2020, we actually doubled the size of our business and our customers all during the pandemic. And we're doing the same for 2021. And we're also projected to double again in 2022. So again, it is a very exciting time to be working at Klaviyo. So you're probably wondering, well, you're talking about all these great customers. Who are they? So our customer base really runs the gamut in between, mom and pop shops to some iconic brands that you may recognize here on this slide. But really what we do for our customers is we help empower brands to really leverage their customer database in a simple and easy way, so that they are able to drive more personalized customer experiences, which really results to a higher sales margin, and they're able to drive their sales that way. So, when we think about Klaviyo, it is very much based on our product. So, and that's kind of cut in three ways. So the first is our customer database, which allows brands to store kind of all of their customer data in real time. So their transactions, their browsing history, their preferences, their demographics, all of that data, we integrate with a third party, Shopify, Magneto, and WooCommerce. And so all of that data is stored there to make it very user-friendly and easy for our customers to use. The second is customer messaging and marketing functionality. So this gives companies the ability to design and to receive and send emails and SMS through forms, campaigns, and automated flows. So you've probably experienced this without even knowing it. So if you've ever gone online to buy, I don't know, a watch, but you put it in your cart and you leave all of a sudden, and then you get an email from that business saying like, hey, you left something in your cart and here's a 20% discount for you to use. That is Klaviyo behind the scenes working on all the magic. And so the last piece is really just learning about how your customers are reacting and then getting those reports and analyzing it. So then you are able to really leverage the data that you've already learned from your customers' behavior. So all of that just really helps with enhancing and personalizing the customer experience. Okay, so we wouldn't be able to empower our customers or our employees without having values. And so these values are really the principles on what we live by through and through. So the first is we always put our customer first. We create products that solve legitimate issues for our customers. And so we want to make sure that we are taking care of them and their customers. The second is we strive to be equitable. So we treat all of our employees with respect, with honesty and kindness. And we strive to be an absolute diverse company, from hiring for diversity, but also thinking about all of the experiences and opinions and making sure that it's not just kind of one cookie cutter type of person. The third is that we are ambitious. And so we don't limit ourselves. We are continuously using the tools to strive big and to aim high and really solve hard problems that will influence the future of technology. The next one, which is my favorite, is we are always learning. So Klaviyos are curious. They have a desire and passion to learn, to figure things out. And this is one of my favorites because we really do practice what we preach. And so we have an awesome book stipend. So you are able to purchase any book, no matter kind of what the genre is, and you can expense it. And so again, that's really fueling that hunger and that passion to learn. The next is we collaborate radically. And so we work together to create incredible things. And so we are humble and we do work well together. And I think all of that makes us better humans. So that is something great about us. And we are also remarkable. We continue to strive for the best and deliver as well as we can, whether that's working faster or more efficient. But we try to be the best that we can be, which is exciting. So I know we've talked a lot about kind of who we are, what we do, but I really want to talk about the best parts about working at Klaviyo, and it is the people. It's a fantastic place to work, not only because we are continuously building culture and inclusion, but we all are always pushing each other to work hard and to work smarter. And so, one great thing I think that came out of the pandemic was we were able to think quickly and think about how this pandemic was impacting our employees. So Klaviyo was able to partner with Headspace, and we have a free membership to Headspace. If we need to meditate or help sleeping, it's just a nice way to know that there is an outlet if you're struggling. We also had Winter Fridays, which is probably going to pop back up, but around February until the spring, we got out on Fridays at 3 p.m. so that mentally, you're not stuck at home all the time when it's dark. And so being able to get out earlier, enjoy some fresh air while the sun is still out is incredible. So just like the little things, I think it shows that we're continuously building a community, and it really is embedded in our DNA. Okay, so when joining Klaviyo, we make 3 promises to you. One is that you will work on hard problems and you will be challenged, you'll be pushed outside of your comfort zone, but in the best way possible. You will never be stagnant here at Klaviyo. The second is you will work with people who amaze and inspire you. And I think the key word here is inspire. Time after time, working next to people who are so smart and brilliant and kind and thoughtful inspires you to be better. So that's one thing that I love about working here. And the next is really working on a product with a mission that matters. So knowing that we're helping small mom and pop shops to large businesses to really achieve their goals and own their destiny is the reason why we wake up every day. So I am very excited to pass it over to Jaron to speak to you more about kind of his experience of working at Klaviyo, but specifically on the engineering team. So Jaron, I'm passing it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Hi, everybody. My name is Jaron Foster, and I'm a senior software engineer here at Klaviyo on our accounts and authorization team. And I'm here to talk to you about why you would choose to be an engineer at Klaviyo. So we kind of took out 3 main reasons why we thought it would be, why you think it's great to work at Klaviyo. There are plenty others, but these are the big ones. Alex already touched on this, and the first one here we have is hypergrowth. As you already know, we're a young company. Like Alex said, we started around 2012, and to see that we're constantly just growing now, and we just doubled over the last year, that's an amazing reason why you would want to come to this company, because you see that we're constantly growing and we're constantly thriving. Not only that, when you're in a company that's kind of like a rocket ship and it's growing, you get to work on projects and things that aren't fully fleshed out all the time. So that means you get to be part of that thought, the think tank, where you can think about new ideas and actually participate in growing a product and not just maintaining a product that's already existing and that's already been out there for 50 years or 100 years. So that's really cool. The next thing we have on here is professional development. I think this is really interesting. We actually allow engineers the ability to work across different teams. So if you on board and you're working with a particular team and you want to learn more about another area in Klaviyo or another product, you're actually able to then rotate onto a different engineering team and learn more about the way that they code, learn more about that other part of the company. And that really just helps and grows you as an engineer, because it puts you in contact with different people and different parts of the code. Another important thing is the weekly manager conversations. In my past career, I actually wasn't able to meet with my manager every week. So I love the fact that we actually set aside time for you to talk with your manager every week and kind of see where your journey is going, how you're going as an engineer, and what are some cool things that you may want to work on. The last thing we have here under professional development, which I think is really important, is the room to learn and take risks. As we all know, when we're learning, we might not always do something 100% perfectly or 100% correct. So at Klaviyo, we give you the ability to obviously take calculated risks, fail fast, recover, and fix whatever happened before. And through that process, you're learning, because we all know that sometimes, even though we call it failure, it's not really failure. You may fail during the learning process. And the last thing, which is super interesting to me, is technology. Um, I love working with the latest and greatest technology, and here at Klaviyo, that is exactly what we do. We're working on technology such as Python 3. We're using containers and Kubernetes and AWS, so cloud computing. So everything here at Klaviyo is cloud first, and it's the latest of the greatest. And if we're not working on the latest technology, then if someone is creating a migration plan to move over to that latest technology. So that's really, really great about Klaviyo. And I think these are the three things that you'll really enjoy working here. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Alex. And she's going to tell you more about our internship program.
Thank you, Jaron. So for our internship program, it is a 12-week/3 months summer internship program that runs from June 6th to August 19th. And during this internship, you will work on project-based, high-impact work. So we treat you as if you are a full-time employee, which is fantastic because you are able to grow as a professional. You are also able to contribute to the business and the success of the business. We are actually hiring 75 interns across all departments. So 25 specifically within the engineering and data science team, which is huge. When I started, we had, I want to say, 20 interns. So to hear 75 is fantastic, so exciting to see that kind of double over time. And with our internship program, we really try to allocate some time to make sure that you all have the room to grow, whether that's professional development events. So we've had fireside chats with our executives. We've had kind of how to craft goals and how to make sure that they are attainable. We've also had social events, virtual paint nights, virtual cooking nights. We also have this great K-Buddy program where you are assigned to a buddy, kind of a veteran here at Klaviyo, but someone on your team, so that you can ask maybe the tough questions that you feel uncomfortable asking your manager. So you have someone, you have a resource to kind of guide you through your internship experience. We also, again, treat you like a full-time employee. So you'll be onboarded just like a regular employee would be. And we really just want to make sure that we are able to grow and develop you as a professional. And then we want to keep you. So when you are high performing, we want to keep you full-time. And so that is our main goal, is to really kind of keep everyone that is high performing. So that is also very exciting. So now I am going to pass it off to Robert, and he was a former intern and now a full-time Klaviyo. So excited for all of you to hear his perspective.
Thank you, Alex. Hi, everyone. My name is Robert Diaz, and I'm a full-time software engineer here at Klaviyo. Like Alex said, I started off as an intern and then converted to full-time. And I'm in the accountant off team with Jaron as well. So the internship experience at Klaviyo, real problems and real solutions. So what that actually means is that the intern is embedded on a team working on real projects that matter to the team's roadmap and the company's roadmap and the customer's expectations. We don't have like intern teams where people work on like side projects and you might work on something that might not ever get deployed, but you actually get to experience the same work that other engineers around the company get to work on every day. And you're treated just like any other engineer would. So you get to work on real things that really matter. Secondly, you also get, we try our best to pair interns one-to-one with teams. So what that means is that you maximize your opportunities for mentorships and collaboration across the team. And you also get a tailored experience where you can learn and grow at your own pace. You get to ask lots of questions, and you get to allocate that time just for you. So that's great. There's also lots and lots of opportunities for growth. You get to work with relevant tools, like Jaron said. In languages, you get to see and experience the same things engineers would. And you get the experience of working with a team. And there's a lot of opportunities to meet and collaborate with other interns at Klaviyo and also other teams. And now I'm going to talk about the internship summer program I worked on. So the internship project I worked on last summer was manual billing. This feature allows our customers to pay through different forms of payment rather than credit cards, such as ACH and wire transfers. This gives our customers more options on how they want to pay for the subscriptions and streamlines the old process. So the impact that this project had specifically on customers is that they're able to use their preferred payment method. It also made it easier for our customer support teams to convert customers to manual billing by having less steps and making sure those steps were automated. So it makes it seamless and easy to just convert a company to manual billing. And overall, this just leads to better efficacy for both customers and customer support. And it had a great impact, and I enjoyed working on this project a lot. It was really fun. I learned so much. I got to learn a lot about Python, which is what we use, Django, and the code base at Klaviyo. And with that, I'm going to pass it over back to Alex. She's going to talk to you about how to prepare for the interview process.
Yes, thank you, Robert. So something is weird with our slides. I don't know where our kind of prep part is, but I know it all off the top of my head. So we'll do it. We'll do it without slides, but I will make sure that I have all of the right content for you. So, we talked about who we are, what we do here at Klaviyo, but want to switch gears and talk more about the interview process and how to prepare for it. So you get an email from a recruiter and it says, yes, we are extremely interested in hearing from you. When can we connect? And so the first thing that you need to do is read through your email and figure out what is being asked of you. Are they asking you to fill out a form to figure out what your availability is? Are they asking for you to share several time slots, several windows that you're available? Are they just asking for you to confirm the time that they're giving you? So that's the first place of figuring out what is required. The second is when you do figure that out, making sure that you're putting all the correct details. So, if you're free from 4 to 5, making sure that you're putting EST if you're on the East Coast. So, when we think about the world that we're living in, that it's more virtual, we want to make sure that if you're speaking to someone in San Francisco, that they know that you're actually on East Coast time. So putting the time zone is also important, making sure that you're putting an accurate phone number. There are times where people have, a phone number that doesn't match their resume. Putting it on there is always nice. The other piece is making sure that you can specify what language you're working on. So for us, we are coding collab. You can choose between Python, Java, Node, and you have the opportunity to pick what works for you. But if you don't give me that, then I can't figure out who to assign you as an engineer for your interview. So all of that being said, you want to start out hot out the gate with being organized and showing that you have a very strong attention to detail. So making sure that you do those things right in the beginning is crucial. The other piece is making sure that you are prepared. And so when I say prepared, I mean research. So all companies now have fantastic social media pages. They have LinkedIn, they have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Go on those, use that to your advantage to make sure that you're preparing for your questions. So that will be a big piece. And David will actually touch upon this when he speaks about the hiring manager, that behavioral piece. But you'll want that so that they know that you've done the research, that you are showing that you really want to work here and you really want to make an impact. So making sure that you're doing that research is key. And so off the top of my head, I know that there is the Muse, the Fizz, and there's also something called Built. It can be built in Boston, it could be built in Chicago, but those are all websites that cater to the tech industry. So if you ever want to know details about a company, that is where you should go to do your research. And when you're doing your research, again, thinking through thoughtful and active questions. So a lot of the times I get, students asking me like, well, what's your favorite part about working at Klaviyo? Which I love answering, but if you could take it one step further and say, hey, I saw that you guys won an award for best places to work in 2021. Can you tell me the top 3 reasons why you enjoy working at Klaviyo, or the top 3 changes you've seen during your time at Klaviyo? And so then you've already taken that ownership that you've done the research and you want me to know that you've done the research. And that makes a great candidate. So I hope that was helpful. I'm going to pass it over to Jaron to speak more about the technical piece and how to prepare for that.
Yes. And before I get into that, Alex is 100% correct. Make sure your information is correct on your resume, because when I first started my career 8 years ago, my information was not. I had a typo in my email and a typo in my phone number. And they chased me down, but sometimes it's really difficult to find people. So I personally experienced that and I wanted to share it.
Yes,
I can laugh about it now. So jumping into the technical portion. So there are 3 phases to this interview. There's a coding collab, there's a manager interview, and then there's a technical assessment. I want to start to talk about the very first one, which is the coding collab. So I'm just going to read this text because I really think that this really speaks to what you'll experience on the coding collab. And it says that the coding collab is a 1-hour coding exercise where you'll be asked to work with 2 other engineers through a problem simulating a real world coding scenario. And the code that they give you, it's not going to be 100% operational. It's going to have some bugs in it. It's going to have some issues, right? But that's part of the process, right? Typically, in the real world, you do code on your own sometimes, but you may run into issues where you might not understand something, or it's a triage or production issue, and then you'll have to pair a program with someone. So the goal of this is to see, again, one of our values is collaborating radically. You want to see how you collaborate with others, right? Are you able to think through some of the issues you're finding in the code? So we listed some tips here that will help you kind of work through a coding collaboration problem if you ever came across one. Number 1 is be collaborative and treat the interviewer as a coworker solving a hard problem with you. So what does that mean? That means the interviewer isn't in your head. So that means you have to speak out loud, right? So that means explaining your thought process out loud and thoroughly. And it's okay to take some time to think internally. I know a lot of us, we process internal and not external. So even letting the interviewer know that, hey, can I have 1 moment to think about that? And then taking a minute, process internally, and then explaining externally, that's totally fine. But the key is always communicating so that they know your next intent and what you're trying to do. Another thing I would say is be open to feedback so that you can spark new ideas. During the coding exercise, they may be giving you little hints or giving you feedback or questioning some of the approaches you're taking. Take those feedbacks, right? Because there's a very good chance that they're right, or it may just lead you down a different line of thinking that will still get you to the answer. The second thing here is be analytical and forward thinking by considering the bigger picture. That's always thinking outside the box, right? You may see a snippet of code there, but remember that code may just be a cog in a bigger machine. So just kind of be aware of that. We're not saying know everything, but just think outside of the box and see the bigger picture sometimes. It's really useful to understand the purpose of the code sometimes and what the end goal is. Because especially when you're giving code that you know isn't working, the moment they say, hey, here's some broken code, the first question you should ask, okay, well, what's your intent? What should it do? Right? If it's not doing that already. And then that can kind of help you work backwards and try to figure out how you can solve something. Another thing would be to do is consider your scale at code. Consider your code at scale. At Klaviyo, we handle a lot of scale, tons of transactions. So you want to make sure that when you're writing something, that this code doesn't just work for one user using it, but it can work for a million users using it. That's something to always be considerate of. So make sure you think about things like threading and thread locks and concurrency, all those things that a lot of times we don't necessarily always do in school, or we don't always do when we're just writing personal projects, but they become really important when you're building real world solutions. Another thing is consider your edge cases for the inputs, right? Every piece of code takes some input. Think about all the values that you have to have there, all the edge cases and all the error handling. And also think about the failure cases. You want to make sure you cover all of your bases. That's really important. Third, meticulous and validate your code. It's really important that when you write code, you either write tests, or you can just, if you don't have the time, verbalize the test that you would write. Um, Always upper, lower bound, and some stuff in between, right? I think if you hit all three of those, you should be fine. And that really shows that you're thinking about how to test the code. Lastly, I know I said a lot and it's probably overwhelming, but don't stress, right? I think when we stress, we're not thinking straight. So just take some deep breaths. It's okay just to slow down. If you feel as though you're moving at a pace that's a little too quick, it's okay. Say, hey, let me just sit back and think for a minute. It's totally fine to do that. And actually, that might actually allow you to move quicker and figure out the problem if you just relax. So don't stress out. Trust me. Next one, ask questions. That is very important, especially when you're dealing with code that isn't 100% operational. Ask as many questions as you can. There's no such thing as a stupid question. I truly believe that. Ask as many as you can think of. And lastly, if you are doing the coding collab portion and you are interviewing for a data science position, there will be stats questions. So be aware of that. So we have 3 resources that we want to share with you all that I think would help with the coding collab and just the interview process in general. And Landon will post those in the chat for you. Number one is a Medium article about what happens when you type a URL in the browser and press enter. You may sometimes run into that question. And even if you don't, I think it's just really good to know the answer because it gives you a fundamental understanding of networking and browsers. Almost everything we do nowadays is either through a mobile device or the web. So it's really important to understand how the web works. The second link would be a daily coding problem. I think it's really good to basically shake off your rustiness. I think as engineers, we think that, oh, I've been doing something for a while. I should just know it. But sometimes you have to practice. Understand that Stephen Curry practices, LeBron James practices. So practice, practice, practice. It definitely helps. We're not going to be perfect, but we'll be close to it. And then the last link Landon will share is something for data science stats. It gives you a good idea of the questions that you may come across. So you can kind of, again, just shake off the rustiness. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to David, and he's going to talk to you more about the hiring manager conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Jaron. And thanks, everyone, for being here tonight. Really appreciate you guys taking the time, and really excited to share some thoughts and advice about the hiring manager interview. So I think, when I was applying for my first jobs, I think this interview was probably the one that I would be most nervous about because, this is someone who could be potentially your future manager. And so you want to really impress them and give a good impression. I think, first of all, the best way to manage that stress is to actually understand that just as much as you're trying to impress your manager or your hiring manager interview, they are also trying to impress you, and they're trying to convince you that their company is a great place to work at. And so it's actually very much a two-way street. And so I think that helps in just making sure that you stay confident, collected, and share your thoughts and answer questions in the most effective manner. So the hiring manager interview is focused on kind of understanding you holistically as a person. There will be parts of it that are technical, but most of it is about kind of understanding how you work, what is your work style, how you collaborate with teammates, and how you will work effectively with the existing team at the company that you're interviewing at. And so in order to kind of give a good idea of those kinds of qualities, it's important to prepare beforehand with examples that you can share, because anyone can say, I'm a team player, I love working with people, I'm very outgoing. People can say whatever they want, but really what I'm speaking with someone, what I really want to hear is our actual experiences. So examples where you demonstrated those kinds of qualities. So before walking into the hiring manager interview, think about situations in your past where you held a leadership role, where you received feedback and tried to act constructively upon it, where you may have discovered the solution to a very hard problem, where you learned something new, and examples where maybe someone showed you a flaw in something that you built and how you reacted to that, how you corrected that. And so it's really great to just take a little bit of time to maybe write down 1 or 2 examples of these kinds of situations so that you have those ready to go when the hiring manager potentially asks you about them. At the same time, it's important to also ask yourself, why am I actually applying for this internship or full-time position? Why am I the perfect person for this role? What am I hoping to accomplish? What are my goals in joining this company? Because again, it's a two-way street, right? The just as much as you're trying to show that you're qualified, the company is also trying to show that they are a great fit for you. And so you want to understand whether they are a great fit for you or not. So don't be afraid to ask questions. The more questions and the more thoughtful questions that you add, actually the better impression that you will make upon the hiring manager. And so some examples of pieces about yourself that you can share, your educational background, any kind of professional or academic experiences you've had in the past, specific technical projects within those experiences that might be interesting to share. Anything that you can tie directly into the role that you're applying for are great points of discussion that you can bring with the hiring manager. And I think last point is to make sure that first that you're applying for a job that you're passionate and enthusiastic about, and then to really demonstrate that passion and enthusiasm during the course of the conversation so that it comes through. Because again, the hiring manager is thinking about what is this person bringing to my team, not just as someone who knows how to code or knows how to do statistics, but as someone who's going to contribute ideas, who's going to get excited about things, and is going to bring excitement to my other team members as well. Cool. So with that, I am going to hand it back to Jerron to walk through the final round process.
Yes. Okay. So let's get into the final round. All right. So the final round is a technical assessment, and it will be a algorithm challenge. So typically the algorithm portion is the part where people stress out at. And I'm with you. I will tend to stress during the algorithm portion as well. So first thing, I'm going to reiterate it. Don't stress, right? It's okay. So here's what I'll say with this. Typically, when you're doing an algorithm problem, at least this is very true for us, we take a simplified part of our event processing system and ask you to implement it. So what's going to happen there is it's something real world. So, you'll definitely be able to work through it. But I definitely will say is when you're given a problem, especially an algorithm problem, it's typically going to be, it typically may be written in a language that's not familiar to you. And when I say language, I mean just the way that the sentence is structured. So I always suggest whenever you're given an algorithm challenge, rewrite it in your own language. Take the sentence, deconstruct it, rewrite it your own way. Because what that does is it actually takes this problem that was written in a format that someone else came up with and the way their brain works, it takes it and you're able to deconstruct it in a way that you think, right? And then starting from there, that'll really help. That's number one. Number two, talk through the problem statement. when you're given an algorithm problem. A lot of times, like I said, it's going to be challenging to understand what's going on. The whole point is it's kind of like a puzzle, right? And you're trying to take this puzzle apart, which is why I say rewrite it. So just make sure you talk through what you're reading to make sure that what you're verbalizing is actually what's in the text, and that the interviewer is confirming what you're saying. It's definitely okay to just like read the thing, reword it, and say, hey, is this correct, before you even get started. And if they give you the okay, you're totally fine. Same thing here, being analytical, thinking about all the edge cases when you're given an algorithm problem. That's really, really important. And then once you think about all the edge cases, and once you rewrite it and you have the okay, now it's time to start coding. Typically, I won't say typically, but most of the time, we'll say most of the time, when you just start coding, you might run into issues. You might have a lot of mistakes. So a lot of times the interviewer is looking to see if you're the kind of person that asks questions first, instead of just jumping right into it and assuming you know, right? So definitely read the question, talk about it. It's okay to have a good 5-minute conversation before you write any code, because that's really going to help you solve the problem. Number 2, I would say when you're writing the code, try to write it in a way where you always have running code, or as close to running as possible. Because at least if you're not able to finish, then you have a good chunk of runnable code present, and they're able to see your thought process, right? If you know that you're writing something, and let's say you're doing it in an object-oriented way, and you need 3 classes. If you just define those classes first, you just have that there, and then you start filling in all the core logic, that's really good. I see that you're able to deconstruct the process, and you're along the journey, right? Because sometimes you can't always finish a problem, but if we can see your thought process, and we can follow along, we can see where you would end up, and that's perfect. So that's for the algorithm challenge. Again, don't stress, ask questions. You'll be totally fine. And I'm going to, again, reiterate, use dailycodingproblem.com. Is going to really just get rid of all the rustiness. They literally send emails with easy, medium, and hard problems. So you're going to have a variety of different problems to work through. And it's really going to help you brush up on your data structures and your algorithms and all those things like that, because you'll definitely need to know data structures when you're doing algorithm problems. The second thing we have here is the weather app challenge. And I think this is really important as well, because like I said earlier, everything we do nowadays is over the web, right? Everything's, you hear REST APIs, no matter where you go. So it's really important to just brush up on that. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to have prior experience with all of the technologies. But again, it's okay not to have experience with the technologies, but at least familiarize yourself with the methodologies, right? Like, what does this thing mean? What do you mean when you say REST? What do you mean when you say JSON? What do you mean when you say APIs and things of that nature, right? Understanding what those things mean and how that works on the web, I think that'll set you up for success, and you will crush this thing. It'll be great. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to David to talk about another portion of the final interview for data science.
All right, there we go. So yeah, so just want to speak briefly about the data science technical assessment, which is a little bit different than the engineering technical assessment. So in data science, in addition to assessing for coding ability, we also assess statistics and data science knowledge. So there are 2 portions to the assessment. The first one we call experimental design, where you're going to walk through problems that cover a lot of topics in kind of basic probability, basic statistics, as well as potentially some more advanced topics, you know, if the interview kind of goes in that direction. And so things that you'll want to be prepared for there are, you know, understanding probability. So, you know, how do you calculate if you roll two dice, you know, what's the probability that you get an even number, right? And so that requires a bit of calculation, and knowing how those kinds of calculations work is important for data scientists, because everything that data scientist does has to do with probability. We're taking samples, random samples from large data. We need to understand how those samples represent or not the kind of questions and phenomena that we're trying to analyze. The second part of the assessment is a Python logic interview. So we break it down to 3 parts, but it's primarily the most of the time is on the first part, which is the coding questions. So again, this is this is going to test your coding skills, but this is still going to have an orientation towards the kind of coding that data scientists do. So, we ask, for example, that you have a Python Jupyter environment available, if possible. Other languages are also okay, but that's kind of our preferred work environment. And that's kind of like standard data science work environment for writing code and running experiments in code. So again, so we test for coding skills, but we have also a significant focus on kind of math and stats in this part of the assessment. Okay, and so with that, I'm going to hand it back to Alex, who's going to tell you about some of the roles that are available.
Yes, thank you, David. So now that you all are experts on what we do here at Klaviyo, we are excited to share all of the opportunities that we have. So we have internships, we have co-ops, we have spaces for MBA students and also new grads. So if you are soon graduating, we are on the hunt and we are looking for you. So as you know, we have engineering and data science roles, but we also have roles in business intelligence, finance, people operations, product marketing, IT, legal, and sales. So if you have any friends that are interested in any of those departments or any of those roles, please let us know. All of our roles are posted on our Klaviyo Careers website. We also, if you wanted to get in touch and share your resume, you could send it to campus-team@klaviyo.com. Definitely follow us on Instagram. Our handle is life@Klaviyo. We post some incredible things of what we do when we are in the office, or kind of cool things that we do virtually. We will have a booth tomorrow if you are interested in learning more about the internship program, or just like what it's like to be an employee here at Klaviyo. That booth will be tomorrow from 12 to 2. And yeah, we really hope that we were able to give you some advice, some resources that you can put in your toolkit for when you apply an interview here at Klaviyo, but also, wherever your journey takes you. But we really hope that we provided you with some resources for you to be confident and successful in your journey. So thank you for your time. We are going to open it up for questions. Okay, so I'm not sure if people can speak, but I know that we can see the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in there and I can either answer them or I can softball them to a colleague. Okay, so let's see, we got a couple here. How can you apply for the internship? Yes, great question. So you can go to Klaviyo Careers, our website there, and there should be a section that says Emerging Talent. And right in there, you will see all of our roles for software engineers and the rest of the business. So Emerging Talent, check it out. Let's see. We also have a question: can a beginner in data science apply for the internship? Yes, definitely. I know that we right now are looking for juniors and above, but that doesn't mean that you can't apply, and it will definitely give you a chance to kind of work on those skills on how to interview well. So definitely don't want to discourage you. If you're in the beginning stage of your data science journey, yes, please apply. And let's see, Jerron, you have a question. What is the front end stack at Klaviyo?
Yes, so the front end stack right now is a mixture. So let me take a step back. We're actually in transition. So as I said before, we're always trying to move towards more modern technologies. So right now it's a mixture of Django and React. with us migrating everything to React. I actually was just working on a project, and I just finished it up this week, where I just migrated something to React. So yes, everything is the new stuff. Everyone's moving from all the old school things to React. So if you did want to apply and join Klaviyo, you'd be working on something really cool and something new. So React and TypeScript would be the answer to that question.
Yes, thank you, Jerron. Thanks for answering that. Let's see, I think we had another question. What are the eligibility criteria? Michelle, I'm curious to know more about your question. Are you asking in terms of sponsorship, or are you asking in terms of school year or class year? But if you're still here, Michelle, would love to get a little bit more insight into your question so that we can answer it. Got another question. When will the hiring process begin? So we are actually already hiring for engineering. So a bulk of our interview process happens in the fall, but we are kicking right back up for the spring. So kind of right after the new year, we'll start to review resumes and send out invitations to be a part of the coding collab. So if you are going to be on winter break and you have some time to maybe polish up your resume, this would be a great time, because we will be kicking off really in January, February. So plenty of time. Let's see. Does Klaviyo have Yes. So the question is, does Klaviyo have any engineering internships still available? Yes, we have a bunch. We are heavily looking for engineers. So again, go to the Klaviyo careers website, and it will be under emerging talent section. Let's see. Do you have any internship roles available for first year students? It is a great question. So I know for the business, we are looking for juniors and above, definitely specifically for engineers, but for our people operations roles and sales, I want to say that we are a little bit more flexible. So definitely apply if you're a first year. We do have something, kind of a great keep warm system, if you will. So knowing that we are trying to hire immediately, full-time. So that's why we're looking more at, juniors and seniors. But for the folks who are a little bit more green and maybe don't have the experience yet, we do have this kind of campaign where we keep students that are green in one area so that we can then reach out to them next year. So all that being said, definitely apply still, because we would love to keep you in our Klaviyo ecosystem. Let's see, are the internships going to be international too? Okay, so we have a couple questions around international. So we do provide sponsorship for international students. So we work with your school, because you already have kind of a sponsorship with your school. So that goes hand in hand with the 3-month internship program. If you are living internationally, so our internship program will be remote for all of our departments. But if you are living, let's say, in Hong Kong while you're working at Klaviyo, it may be difficult just in terms of the time frame. You know, you wouldn't be able to participate in team meetings. And also, I want to say from a security standpoint, for us to ship out the laptops internationally, I think may be an issue. But if you are an international student and you're living in the United States, then that works. But if you are an international student living abroad, that may be a little bit tougher, but that's something that could be at least talked about with HR on a case-to-case basis. But great questions. Okay, I think we have a question for you, Robert. Okay, so Robert, I don't know if you can see the chat too, but Regarding your internship, were there anything that you had on your resume that you believe stuck out in regards to your side projects? Also, how did you prepare for an internship level technical interview in regards of DS&A?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Abraham, thank you for your question. So the first part regarding the side project and something that stuck out, I would say that I was working on a project that was basically an online marketplace, kind of like an e-commerce site. And it was something that I was really, really passionate about. So when it came time for the engineer manager interview, it was something that I was able to kind of like describe and like share my thought process and kind of all the technical things and like why I did it and how I chose to approach the problems and like what problems I had and how I implemented certain things. And I think that kind of really showed how like interested I was in the project and like how passionate I was. So it was something that really helped me. Um, and it doesn't have to be like kind of like a huge project that does like a crazy thing. My project was pretty simple, but just the fact that I was really passionate, I was able to talk about it. I was able to speak on like what technologies I used, what I really liked about it, and kind of my experience. Was a really good talking point, and I think it really helped me a lot. And then in regards to the technical interview, I'm not sure what the DS and A acronym stands for. Anybody know here?
Yeah, data structures and algorithms.
Okay, yeah. Never seen the short form for that, but yeah, yeah. So for that, I studied a lot. I think I studied like 3 months prior to the interview. I did a lot of coding questions. I also had other resources available, talking to other engineers, uh, going to webinars, and just kind of delving deep into it. And I even read some books, kind of reviewing everything I learned in school and making sure that I remember like all the data structures, linked lists, stacks, queues, everything in that nature, and also like algorithms. Make sure that I knew that I remember all the sorting algorithms, all um, everything to do with trees and things of that nature. So I think reviewing everything and just practicing, making sure that you know what each thing does and like when it's useful, when it's a good time to use a certain algorithm or a certain data structure, and just kind of like reading the question, um, understanding what they're asking, and just kind of like linking it back to a data structure or an algorithm is really helpful. That's something that you learn by practicing. So I think practicing is the key here.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Robert. Okay, I think we have one more question and then we are going to wrap up. And that question is, what value is placed on STEM background for engineering positions? It's a great question. I will say that a lot of our resumes come from computer science. We see math and we do see some science as well. But I think the piece that you shouldn't get too wrapped up on is, whether what your degree is in, but more thinking about what projects you've worked on, what leadership roles that you've had, and also, really showing that you've had either previous internship experience and, when you're writing it out, making sure that you're clearly illustrating what the impact was. So how did your work impact the business? How did it save people time or money? But making sure that that impact is there. Does anybody else have anything else to add to that question?
Yeah, I'll just say that we definitely hire people from backgrounds outside of computer science. We have people who've been in like biology, chemistry, so many fields nowadays use computers as part of their daily workflow. So as long as you have that kind of experience and you can demonstrate it, it doesn't matter what your degree's in.
Very, very true. Thank you, David. So we are going to wrap up, but I do want everyone to know that, hit us up on LinkedIn. We care, which is why, we were so excited to be a part of this panel and have this discussion with all of you. So please feel free to find us on LinkedIn, drop a line. We're happy to help. I know that everyone here on the panel, if you needed someone to look at your resume or do a quick mock interview, all of us would be happy to help. So this doesn't end here. We are a continuous resource. So thank you again for your time. Happy holidays and enjoy your weekend. Thanks.